pilgrimage to the Himalayas. I got an email 15 months ago that said that. Now, I never wanted to go to India. Too crowded, too noisy, too much poverty. I never wanted to go to India. But there was something about the Himalayas that drew me. And there were two things that drew me. One was a lot of the enlightened sages have been in the Himalayas. And I wanted to experience the vibration, the energy, the high consciousness of the ashrams, the places of spiritual growth and development, of the temples, of the caves where great rishis and sages had meditated. I wanted to feel that. Also, included in this trip was Badrinath, which is considered in India the land of the gods, 10,000 feet in the Himalayas. The sacred scripture of the Hindus, the Mahabharata, one of the scriptures, there are certain events that they believe happened in Badrinath. Certain cave where the person received the Mahabharata, and another cave where he signaled mentally to the other guy to write down the Mahabharata, and places like that in Badrinath. I wanted to go there and experience that. But even more, it said that in that mountain range was a great sage named Babaji. Babaji is known throughout India. Babaji is like Jesus Christ. He is eternal. He has reached that realization where they say he is forever about 34 years of age in the Himalayas. And his purpose is to send positive energy to the planet, just like Jesus Christ, to help uplift human beings and help us discover our divinity. And I thought, wow, I would like to see Babaji. So those were my, pulls. So I made a commitment. I'm going to India. I'm going to go on this pilgrimage for those two things, to the intention of the high vibrations. So what I want to say to you, first lesson from India, is never say never. And be open to the pull of spirit. Because what you might think you're never going to do or experience, spirit may have other intentions for you, right? And be open, because something can shift. And so that's what I did. I also had the intention, some of you know that there's an injury in my neck, probably from childhood, who knows where, that has created migraine headaches for me. It's been a challenge for a number of years. And I've learned to manage it and to cope with it. And I wanted to set the intention that by the time I get to India, I'm going to have that better under control, because there's not much worse than being on a 7, 8, 9-hour bus with a migraine headache, or a 16-hour plane ride with a headache, where you can't stretch and you can't do exercises to try to manage it. So I set the intention that by India, I'm going to have that under control. And I went to physical therapists, and one said, hey, why don't you go to a headache specialist, and da-da-da-da. Fortunately, I discovered some medication that helped a lot. But I had that intention. What do you have a strong intention or commitment to do for yourself? Maybe it's to get in better health. Maybe it's to succeed more in your work or your finances. Maybe it's to get in better shape. Maybe it's to connect more with spirit. What is your intention? I had that commitment with some power, not wish, with some power behind it. This is what I'm going to do with God. And fortunately, I got some help. Wasn't perfect. Second lesson. Well, third. First is be open and willing, right? Second is set your intention. And third lesson, adapt and look for the good. Adapt and look for the good. One of the ways I've learned to manage the headaches is not to fall asleep on an airplane. Because when my head starts doing this, it triggers a headache. So I was going to be up for 16 hours on that flight. And when I got on the plane, I guess I was a little too laid back. I flew Air India. And when I got on that plane, every seat was occupied. And guess what? The leg space on that plane was no different than if you were flying from one state to another. There wasn't much of it. And I had my backpack with snacks and water and all that, and I couldn't put it above my seat because they were all taken. I had to put it in another aisle. And there were babies sleeping in, so you couldn't cross easily to get to the other aisle. It was a big rigmarole to walk around and all. Adapt. Okay. This is India. We were told, you're going to India. And you're going to need to adapt and grow from the experiences. It's not just let's go to the Himalayas and experience the high vibrations. That's nice, but the challenges are part of the growth, right? So, I get on a plane. 16 hours, keep myself busy and occupied, manage to do whatever I need to do to stay awake. And the next morning, we get to Delhi, the capital of India, and let me tell you, the traffic is unbelievable. New York City, Manhattan is like a garden compared to... Yes, it is. It's like a garden. The cars, the motorcycles, the traffic, the honking, all the time. Everybody's honking. It's part of the language. They're communicating with each other through honking. And so anyway, I go to Delhi and check in, have breakfast. I go to the front desk to order some water because you can't drink the water out of the sink. It's got bacteria that our bodies won't cope with, and you got to brush your teeth with bottled water. So I go to the front desk, order a liter bottle of water, and they come out with a water like this. I don't know how many gallons of water. I didn't realize I was ordering that. So I took it up to my room thinking this is going to last, it's going to last longer than the 2 or 3 days we're in Delhi. Well, guess what? I get up to the room, I put the bottle on the desk, and all of a sudden my stomach starts to churn. Delhi belly. Some might call it the bottom end of the flu. All day, first day of the trip, that water came in handy. That gallon, I almost emptied the whole that whole thing of water by the evening time. Here's what I've learned to do. Don't resist it. It is what it is. Oh my, the first day of the trip, why did this happen? How did this happen? This is terrible. No. It is what it is. Deal with it. Drink the water. Take the Imodium. Deal with it. Go with the flow. That's not a good statement, is it? Go with the flow. So, adapt and look for the good. Spirit had my back before I knew I had a problem. I had plenty of water. Adapt. Adapt. What do we need to adapt to in our life? We were going to fly to a place called Ladakh in the Himalayas and see monasteries and temples. But 2 days before, a conflict erupted in Ladakh. The younger generations were fighting with the Indian government. There was a conflict. So they canceled that trip. We lost the flights, we lost the tickets, we lost the hotel, because if we went there, we might not get to leave or do anything. So we canceled it. Adapt and look for the good. So we didn't go to Ladakh. Some people were bummed out. Again, does that help? Getting upset about changes that you weren't planning on? No, it doesn't. What did we do? We went to the Taj Mahal. Not bad. Look for the good. We had extra days in Rishikesh, the land of the sages. The Bible tells us everything works together for good to those who love God. Adapt and look for the good. You got to do that in India or you'll go crazy. Yes, so many different experiences of adapting and looking for the good. Now in Rishikesh, I was drawn toward Rishikesh too, because one of my teachers was Swami Satchidananda. He had a center here in New York City. There's still a center here, but he came to New York City. He was a teacher for Peter Max, the artist. He was a teacher for Carole King, the singer, and influenced a lot of people, including myself. I was very impressed by Swami Satchidananda. His teacher was in Rishikesh, and Satchidananda became a monk in Rishikesh. So I looked forward to going to that ashram where Swami Shivananda, the great yoga master, had his residence and his ashram. And one of his students, who was a brother monk with Swami Satchidananda, was Swami Chidananda. And so I was reading this book. I bought this book. It was probably like 20 cents in one of these ashrams. I mean, you know, it was pretty inexpensive stuff. And this expresses this to me. The adapt and look for the good. O all merciful Lord, friend of the weak and helpless, through thy grace and will, whatever has happened for the best. Whatever is happening now is happening for the best. Whatever is to happen in the future will happen for the best. Bless me that I may accept thy will and make my surrender pure, perfect, complete, and unconditional. I thought that's a beautiful prayer. Imagine embracing that idea. It's happened for the best, it's happening for the best, and it will happen for the best. That's adapting and looking for the good from a great sage, Swami Chidananda. Next point, develop devotion. Develop devotion. You know, devotion is a quality of the heart. A lot of people like to hear lectures. A lot of us, I certainly do, a lot of us like to read and learn new things. A lot of us like to try different stuff. And heaven knows, in this world of all kinds of offerings, there's plenty of things we can sample and try and do. But the challenge is to go from the head to the heart, to open this heart space, because it's there that we really start to experience the divine. And I had an experience there in one of the 4 sacred temples of India. Hundreds of years ago, a sage started these 4 sites, and now they become pilgrimage sites. And in Badrinath, 10,000 feet in the Himalayan mountains, was this beautiful temple. And our guides made reservations for our group to be in that temple. And in the temple, in the back, was this beautiful gold and area where the priests were. And there was a statue in the back. It was a statue of the god Vishnu, which is one of the aspects of God, and then also the god Babaji, represented Babaji. Now, it was the service, get this, the service started at 4:30 in the morning. And it lasted 2 to 3 hours. And in that sanctuary, you watch the priests bathe the statue. They poured honey on the statue. They poured different oils on the statue. They made offerings up to the statue, which then came back to the people and so on. And I kind of dreaded going to the service because, I don't know, I grew up in synagogue. We spent 2 to 3 hours in synagogue. I thought 2 to 3 hours watching this stuff happen to the God. You know what? It was an amazing experience. People think the Hindus believe in a bunch of gods. No, they don't. They believe in one God. One God, everywhere present, that's infinite. However, not everyone can relate to an infinite God. And so they need to see God in form. That's why relating to someone like Jesus Christ and loving Jesus, or loving Buddha, or loving another sage, or loving nature, can help people relate to the manifestation of God. They know that Jesus, if you can love Jesus and recognize that God is also in you and that God is infinite. See, that's called devotion. That's called learning to awaken the love of the heart. It's like a kid playing with dolls. You wouldn't tell a little girl, don't play with the doll. Don't give her a doll. Why? If you give a little girl a doll, she learns to love that little doll. She learns to take care of that little doll. She learns to wake up the love of her heart. And that's what the Hindus do when they're acknowledging God in a figurine, in a statue. For them, they're not loving the statue. They're loving God through the statue. Does that make sense? It's a way of awakening the love. Now, here's the amazing thing. Now, it was amazing to watch that statue go through all of this. And by the end of it, it was decorated in flowers. It was shining. You could even see like a glimmer of light coming through the eyes. It was pretty cool. But one thing that I loved to do, there was a window at the back of the temple. And there were hundreds of people from 4:30 a.m. to 8 or 9 a.m. lined up to walk through that back window for about 8 seconds to see that statue. They call it a Murti. And let me tell you, the devotion on these people's faces was amazing. When they walked through that window and they left a little offering, and the priest would take some of it and give them back to them, and it would get passed up to the statue and so on. When these people walked by that window, they were seeing God. Hundreds of people, 7 days a week. The devotion was so beautiful. The love of the heart, learning to awaken that love. There was a fellow in our group from Japan, and he said he's never seen such devotion. People came from all over just to see God. when I got to Rishikesh, which is in the foothills of the Himalayas, where Swami Shivananda's ashram was, where Chidananda's residence was, where Swami Satchidananda became a monk. We got into the hotel, and I went to lay on the bed to rest. And I was laying there. And all of a sudden, you know how in the hospital when someone's heart stops beating, they take those things and they put it on the heart, and I was laying there just relaxing. And all of a sudden, it was like something happened to my heart. It was like they put the thing, it didn't hurt, but I felt all this energy in my heart. And immediately, I thought of Swami Shivananda. I thought of Swami Satchidananda. I thought of Swami Chidananda. And I wondered if I didn't get zapped. God is inside of us, yes. But part of devotion, and you don't hear this a lot in metaphysics, but I will tell you, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, if you look in Prosperity, the book Prosperity in the beginning, there's a prayer in there that says, Jesus Christ is raising me to his consciousness. He didn't just say, God in me is raising me. He said, Jesus Christ is now raising me to his consciousness. A prayer like that. See, that's devotion. There's nothing wrong with asking Jesus to help you tune into the God within. There's nothing wrong with asking Divine Mother or another sage to help. Mother Mary, in parts of the world, Mother Mary is greatly loved. There's nothing wrong with asking a divine being who's walked the path before us to help you raise your devotion and love and connection with Spirit. You don't have to, but there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it can help you. And so, when we're open to it, some of these beings can actually do something for you, that you can't do for yourself. And so that's what happened to me in Rishikesh. It was, oh my God, what was that? I can only suspect that something was freed up inside of me. Something was healed. Or I need to go to the doctor and get myself checked out. So developing devotion is important. Being open to Spirit's guidance, never saying never, setting your intention, and adapting and looking for the good, developing devotion, and then tune in right where you are. We went to caves where sages had lived, and we meditated in those caves. Now, some of those caves, they're touristy now. They weren't always touristy. So I know in one cave I was meditating and I felt some good vibrations. Suddenly my toes got stepped on because there were tourists walking in and they were talking and, it was just odd. Here we are in these caves trying to meditate and tourists are talking or whatever. But it was still cool to do that. And we went to one cave that the tourists didn't know about. It was the cave of a great sage named Bhrigu. I won't go into who Bhrigu is, but he was an amazing person. And it was a little bit up the mountain in Badrinath, a little bit up the mountain, and there, living in a residence, was a Swami. A Swami is a monk. He was living there for the last 6 months, and there was another Swami, I believe, who lived there too. And the Swami showed us where this cave was, which was right next to his residence. We went in, we meditated, it was quiet, it was wonderful. And then we came out, and the Swami started to talk. Now, here's the amazing thing. I didn't know who this Swami was. Never heard of him, never seen him before. And I felt such love for this Swami. I don't even know where it came from. And this man started to talk to us. And then it looked like we could ask a question. So I asked a question. I said, you living here basically by yourself for 6 months. How are you able to be happy living by yourself here? He said, it's like tuning a guitar. You have to tune in. You have to tune in. And the Japanese fella, Shin, he said that was the highlight of the whole trip for him, hearing that one idea. You have to tune in. And the other interesting thing is, he said that you got to learn how to deal with distractions. He pointed to a part of the Himalayas, which were beautiful, and he said, I stayed in a cave up there for 21 days. There was nobody else there. It was just me in the cave. And at 4 o'clock in the morning when I was going to meditate, the birds were chirping. Even in a cave in the Himalayan mountains, there were distractions. And one of his messages was, you've got to learn how to deal with distractions and learn how to meditate and be still wherever you are. And that's one of the biggest lessons I got, ladies and gentlemen. I went to the Himalayan mountains and meditated in caves and temples and sacred spaces, and it was great, but I also realized that the vibrations in my own meditation space were just as powerful. You don't have to go to the Himalayan mountains to experience the powerful vibrations of spirit. You and I need to find it right where we are. We need to take the time, make the effort to go deeper, to meditate longer, to stretch ourselves, to find those sacred vibrations of God being God as us right where we are. I come from the Himalayan mountains to tell you that message. And it wasn't an easy trip, ladies and gentlemen. They said it would take 7 to 8 hours to take the bus from Rishikesh around the Himalayan mountains to get up to Badrinath. We were 20 minutes into the trip when there was a landslide on the mountain, and we had to wait 3 hours on the bus for them to clear the landslide and the traffic. And it took us 12 hours on 2 buses, bumpy, going around the mountain. And I would look out the passenger seat, hundreds of feet down into a roaring river outside my window. People were scared at points. And the roads, one of the guides said the roads weren't this bad in 2019. And they were narrow roads going around this mountain. And, you know, the people driving on those roads, they didn't have any qualms with driving down a one-way side of the road and cutting in front of the bus and so on. You know, and the buses are, you know, trying to navigate these roads. So don't do it unless you really want to go there. When I got up there, I love helicopters, and me and 3 other ladies were going to take a helicopter ride back to Rishikesh. But God had other plans. We were on that bus. So, you know, grow where we are. Meditate. Don't put it off. Deal with the distractions. They're everywhere. They're in the Himalayan mountains. The birds will distract you. And then, lastly, surrender and trust. Going around that mountain, you know, I had to surrender. Lord, if it's my time to go, better here than somewhere else. I don't want to fall hundreds of feet, but I surrender to you, Lord. I've lived a good life. Remember I told you in the beginning, I was drawn to the fact that Babaji was in the mountain range somewhere. In the beginning of being in Badrinath, I was praying in my meditation to see Babaji. My Japanese friend, Shin, badly wanted to see Babaji. When we went to that Swami where the cave was, Shin asked him a question. He said, "Have you seen Babaji?" And quickly, the Swami said, "No, it's not that easy. It's not like cooking a meal and eating it." And Shin was like, "Oh, okay." And I, at that point, said, "Okay, I let go of trying to see Babaji. I'm probably not evolved enough anyway to see Babaji." So when it was time to go, we took that long drive around the Himalayan mountains. Someday I'd like to show you pictures. We got lots of pictures. And as we were going down the mountain, at one point, I looked off to the right, and there was an old cabin there, a lot of old buildings, right? And people dressed in work clothes and stuff all around the mountain and all that. Well, I looked off to the right. It was an old cabin on the edge of the mountain. And there was a little kid about 10 years old leaning against the cabin, his shirt off, watching the bus go by. And beyond the little kid was someone sitting in a chair who looked like he was out of a movie. He had the most beautiful face. He looked like he was in his 30s. It was radiant. It was beautiful. He was smiling like he looked perfectly happy. He looked out of place. He had a turban on. His dress was his clothing was absolutely beautiful. He was sitting in that chair like he was a prince. When I looked over, he looked directly into my eyes. He raised his hand and he waved. And then it was over. The bus moved on. The people around there weren't waving at the bus. They would watch the bus go. They weren't dressed like a prince. The next day, I told one of the spiritual leaders, I described the experience. His first words were, "Babaji. Babaji." That's how Babaji would appear. You wouldn't expect it. The most unexpected place. A glance. I don't even think the kid knew he was there. Like that. I don't know if it was Babaji, but it was somebody special. It was amazing. It was amazing. But I'd let it go. Surrender and trust. And when my plane landed back down in JFK Airport, I was so happy. Clean air, clean streets, less noise. If I had to live in India, I'd love being there. But I was so happy to be back in the good old U.S. of A. We got to take care of our country and take care of what we have, because we've got a lot. We've got a lot. Let's get still. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for your presence and activity in our lives. Together we remember the truth that we have your Spirit expressing in and through and as us. That everything we need is within us. It's you It's your presence. And that we have what we need to know you, to love you, to experience you, and to grow and become the people that we're here to become. Thank you for your guidance and your direction in our lives. Reveal yourself to us. Help us to develop devotion, to surrender, to trust, to love you, to see you in all of life, to see your good, to see your activity. And so it is. Amen.